Meyer. I am collecting vintage computers and vintage technology. And in this video, I will show you my personal computer, so to say. So this is it. This is what we are dealing with today. It's a Zenith Data Systems personal computer. And indeed, I think this video might get a little personal today. There weren't videos in the last time from me. It was basically because I'm having a hard time at the moment. I'm promised to continue on this HP thing there. I have a Macintosh project going on and stuff, but all this is stalling now for about 4 months. There's also no progress on the A5120 Robotron computer. And Vintage Computing Festival in Berlin is at the doorstep, and on Sunday the deadline runs out, so I need to find something to present, and I think this is a good thing to come up with. It's difficult to I don't know where to start best first. So this computer is basically a replica of my first childhood computer. A replica because it's not that particular machine I had back then. My machine I sold it for about 50 Deutsche Mark, I think. And this is a step that I regret until today. So I was searching the internet and online auctions for about almost 15 to 17 years to find this. One should know that Zenith Data Systems is not it's not particularly easy to find a machine like this in Germany, because Zenith Data Systems is not very present here. In the US, it's very common also with the offices there, so they all got Zenith Data Systems at that time. So there are many of these units around there. So one has to know that, of course, and one has to pay the shipping fees. This computer is entirely imported from the US. I think I spent about 2,000 euros on this particular machine. I got 2 of these main units to make a good one, working one here. So I took the parts from 2 units into one. Basically, the keyboard here is American keyboard I imported, which is actually a pity, because back then, of course, I had a German keyboard. But since I made my system installation, I broke it basically when I was a child, and I could restore it with the help of the neighbor, but for some reason I couldn't figure out how to configure a German keyboard, so it was always a US keyboard all the time. So I basically, the second half of my computing childhood, I was forced to use an American keyboard, which was fine for me, but and now I have a real American keyboard here on this machine, so I do not have to bother anymore how to configure German keyboard. So I just have the physical American keyboard here now. This comes all from different sources, by the way. So the keyboard is from one source, the monitor is from one source, and the main unit is also from one source. So what do we have here? Date code or something. 92, maybe 28th week or something, 1992, I don't know. ZKB3 is the model number. This is very lightweight keyboard, so it's a cheap one, I think. And back then I opened it, so I had to crack it open. I'm now sure that this is the keyboard I had back then, because I had to crack it open here, and I never got it really back to it. I cracked it open because I wanted to clean it. I cleaned everything when I got my first machine, also the keyboard. I want to have this clean. I don't know why. Yeah, so then we have the monitor. It's a very, very simple looking device. Like basically it looks like one of these terminal monitors I have. I really like this design. The monitors IBM used back then, the fat ones, I find the design is super ugly. I mean, it matches their main unit design, but I don't know what they were thinking. I think this is so much more beautiful, this thin frame here and these big black CRTs. So this is really good design, but I don't think that Zenith data system probably didn't make them themselves. It's probably relabeled and the monitor is from some other brand. We don't know, but I mean, it could be Zenith, because Zenith in the US, it was a TV set manufacturer. So they weren't really in the computer business. So the way they entered the business was through Heath. So Heath had I have this unit too, and maybe I show it in another video. It's a smaller computer. It's one of these 2/3 size cabinets, and it was meant to be basically some kit you could assemble. I have one of these two, and Zenith bought that from Heath, and so that was their step to get into the computer market. And later they got bought by Group Bull, and that's why you have this little tree on these machines. So this is actually from Bull. So when Zenith Data Systems got bought out by Bull, they put this nice green tree on there, which I really, really love. Yeah, basically you have this monitor, and this monitor is cabled here into the graphics adapter. So, I mean, can unscrew this. Probably you are still familiar with this. This is a VGA monitor cable. There are not all pins present because this is a black and white monitor. I had a green monitor with the green IBM style phosphor back then. That was way better. This is a black and white monitor, but I mean, I'm 36 years old now, and I'm no longer green behind my ears, so it's pretty okay to have a black and white monitor now, as I'm now on my way turning gray. It's more gray and white, so to say. So this basically, again, there's a connection between the machine and myself. So this is, you have a look at this later. This is a mouse port. This mouse is not important, by the way. It's from here, you can see I didn't steal this. Says Eigentum Deutscher Bundestag Parlacom, basically property of Deutscher Bundestag. This was, I got this in one of these boxes I got from other people. And since my parents were working for the government back then, I got these boxes from working colleagues from my parents, and one of these boxes this was in, and I guess this is basically when they have tossed out this stuff. So basically I think this is right from the trash bin of the Bundestag. I mean, this is proprietary. This is a Microsoft import. It's called Microsoft import, and my PC back then also had this. So that's why I've put an Microsoft import card into this too. Otherwise I would have gone for a serial mouse or so. So this is accurate, so to say. Then we have a parallel port and two serial ports. The advantage of this, by the way, is also we have these two serial ports available, so it's not occupied by one mouse, which is great. Not that I feel a need for two serial ports in this. Maybe I need one for using this as a terminal, so this should be a great terminal, if you will. So we have the power supply in the yeah, the nameplate here, and it reads. Let's see what it reads. This particular model doesn't really have a name. It's a ZBV-2519-EY, and that's basically it. So apparently Zenith didn't give their models fancy names, which is okay. So I think before we tear this thing apart, we should just switch it on. And yeah, back then I was told to switch on the monitor first. I don't know, this is snake oil, I think. People were keeping saying you should turn on your monitor first before you switch on the main unit because it might cause damage to the monitor, but I don't think so. The reason for that is more, I think you want to see all the screen output from the very beginning. That's why you turn it on first. But it doesn't hurt if you forget. So let's see. Should now come up. Yeah, it takes this time. So here we have a flashing cursor already. And there it is. Yeah, there's really not much to it. I mean, it's a DOS PC like you had it back then. I've put a little fancy stuff into the autoexec but to have the directory listing here. Of course, we'll take a quick tour through that, but don't expect too much fancy stuff here. I mean, DOS is. I mean, I think you all know about DOS, or your DOS box on your Windows PC today, and this looks the same, but it's actually much simpler. DOS is a very tiny and very simple operating system. It can only do a single task. You can have something like multitasking if you hack, but basically what you then do is you would hack into interrupt routines that get regularly called, and then you would execute your code. It's all hackers. So, yeah, anyway, I don't want to put the blame on this. I mean, it's a very simple thing, you know. You don't have users, you don't have access rights, no nothing. It's just, I mean, it's a personal computer. It's normally you. It's normally your computer. You are the only user on this. No online users, nothing. And if you want to protect your data, you don't encrypt anything. You don't have any password. You just turn the key, and then the keyboard would lock. That's all it is. There's some software on it. I mean, you can go through the thing. I've made myself a home directory where I can store some personal files. I had a similar directory back then, which I called top secret, because you only can have 8 characters in a directory name, no more, and it's always a pain. Of course, I was choosing cool names as a child. This is less cool. I mean, since this installation is a little bit newer, but it's the typical thing. You would have one DOS directory, that's where your DOS installation sits, and then any program you will install in addition gets its own directory right in the root file system. So there's no such thing like USR, user local stuff where you install your. I mean, there aren't even rules, but that's a common thing you find on these machines. On Windows, you have usually your programs directory here. You just have it right there. I mean, it's also easier to type. I mean, what do we have here? Larry, I'm sure you have seen it on YouTube 1,000 times. That maybe if there's time, I'll show you at least the title screen. But I mean, there's not much to it. I mean, the Larry run. We all played it. We all were underage. We all weren't supposed to play it, but we played it anyway, and it didn't hurt us. I don't even know if it was officially released in Germany. I think not. I mean, it was the early years of such things. So Puter is something I need for my PDP-11 to restore image. So there's a lot of image retro computing restore programs here. 22 disk is for my CPM stuff. FP-Suche is the program I got with my first PC. That's why it's there. It's the nostalgic thing. I never used it, and I never actually don't know what it actually is. I think it's something like grep or so. Matters, I need to show you, and I bet you, at least if you are from the US, you probably don't know it. It's something we had at school on any machine. It was everywhere, and nobody paid for it. It was shareware. C is the star command I use for Commodore stuff. Cut is a generic cut. That's how it's called. It was on there. It's a cut program. Maybe we can make that running, I don't know. It's very difficult. I found, at least as a child, I found it very difficult to handle. I even made some drawings with that, but yeah, very, very difficult. GP is this Grand Prix game I used to play back then. Mouse, I mean, that's kind of obvious, that's the mouse driver. And Stunts is a game, it's a car racing game. It's also very common, and there are already also for Grand Prix there. I think there are lots and lots, shitloads of videos on YouTube. I think copy QM is needed for copying over CPM stuff, CPM related. IMD's image disk, I never used it. I prefer Teledisk, it's also there. NAVC, I actually don't, at the moment, don't recall what it was. Unibase is a kind of odd program. It's difficult to crack. As soon as I copy it, it's destructing itself, and God knows why. Errata, it's probably also something you don't know. This is an educational game about Europe. It's actually, I mean, it was for kids to tell kids what this whole process about Europe is about. I mean, back then the euro was in discussion, but it was not there. It was still all Deutsche Mark. LabLink is used for data transfer. I use it all the time to transfer data back and forth. I don't use these disk drives pretty much. I don't know. If I can avoid it, I avoid it. Of course, for restoring disk for other machines, then yes, but not for transfer. I don't have to. Norton Commander, of course, and Word. This is Word 5. I think that was the last version of Word for DOS, and I think this is one of the best word processors ever made. Yeah, it's really, really good. I loved it back then. So yeah, let's try something out. I would say let's go for Matter. So what you do on such a machine is you change directory, works the same as on any other machine. You don't have tab completion, but don't worry, it's no more than 8 characters per directory. So let's see what's in there. There's a Matters Excel. So this was everywhere. So whenever you were going to the computer room with your math teacher, I think this was one of the tools you had to use. So this was a pretty standard tool. And I mean, what do you do as a schoolboy? What calculations are you doing? I mean, I can show you what we did back then. So it was more almost always function plotter. Yeah, I mean, and then you do some x power of 2 or so. And that's it. That's what's the kind of tasks you have to compute. Page down, and then you can enter some parameters, and then you are happy. I mean, I almost felt like a mathematician back then when I could do this. And probably you have computed this by hand in the classroom, and then you go to the computer room and then you verify your results with those tools. And these can actually do more. I can geometry. I never tried it. Can even do stochastic. It's just a neat little tool, and if you have a DOS machine, you shouldn't spare it out. You should have this installed. This is really a cool thing. And yeah, obviously I'm having an unregistered version. I don't pay, they didn't pay the 80 D-Mark. I mean, fine with that. So CD double bond. Okay, I mean, here you can do this. This wouldn't work on Unix, of course, but on DOS, so that works. So yeah, these are like VMS parameters. So let's see what we try next. We can try Europa. I guess the non-European world didn't see this yet. So this is a kind of a premiere. So what do we have here? Europa. This is strongly linked to Jurassic Park. So back then, due to the success of Jurassic Park, I don't know how it was in other countries, but at least in Germany we had this so-called dinosaur wave, Dinowelle. So everything had to be something with dinosaurs. So if you want to release a successful product or do anything successful, it had to be something with dinosaurs. So everybody was brain fucked with dinosaurs. It was awful. It was a really awful time, and I'm glad it's over. So let's go for it. It's checking for virus. I don't know what it does. I think it just completes a checksum or so. Yeah, come on, come on, come on. Yay. And that's it. Konzeption und Entwicklung, Glamour Spawn. So you know where this is coming from. Oh, I love the glow here. See that? It's not as beautiful as with the green screen, but it's also cool. It should be schwarz, rot, gold, black, red, yellow, gold. Sorry. I mean, on the screen it would display as yellow anyway if it would be a color screen. So it's actually legal to copy this, it says, but it's not legal to use it commercially. Okay. That's really difficult. No, I don't want to read manual. I want to play. So, oh, it stopped. It stopped. No. I am slow standard. Thank God. Did I enter this? I don't know. Okay, I'm in Germany and I have 600 ECU. I don't know what this ECU is. It's I think it's some weird predecessor unit from you. I don't know. I have to admit that I don't know that. But I have to say where I want to go, so let's go to our Brexit friends. So, I'm in London. Oh, that was expensive. I almost spent all my money now. Okay, let's see. Oh, this is cool. This is kind of nice. I'm allowed to play 3 times on the gambling machine now. This is a game for kids, right? This is for kids, and you tell me something about gambling? Oh man, this is slow. What do I do? But this is very fair. Okay, nine. Okay, at least 50. I mean, they have sweet dinosaurs. It's actually not a bad game. I mean, it was for free back then, and it's created with love, you know. Okay, now I'm getting questions for Great Britain. Let's see if I can answer that. Okay, this is more of a retro computing question. Not really related to England, but okay, I'm fine. I thought they were asking something about Sinclair or so. Okay, now. Die Lach- und Schießgesellschaft. Aha. Schäfer und des Außenministers. I mean, this is so obvious. Dagobert Duck. Okay. Okay, I've won something. Okay, I think we terminate this now. It's I don't want to say this is an annoying game, but yeah, well, now you have seen it. Okay, now you know. So thanks for having used Glamus software. Aha, they're thanking us. Apparently they have the same bug like with Win Commander. I don't think so. I mean, this at least for Wing Commander, it has an interesting backstory, but never mind. So let's see what else do we have. Let's I was somewhere else with my thoughts now. Maybe let's go to the title screen of Larry, for the sake of it. I mean, I guess you know that already. This is how it looks on my black and white monitor. And yeah, there we have it. Okay, not appropriate for children. I mean, really, I thought these were made for children. 36 still. Okay. These questions are, I mean, can be actually challenging for someone who's not from the US. I mean, I can't probably guess blue jeans, but I can never be sure. It was wrong. I mean, I don't have the background information to solve this. Lucy, Ricky, and Fred. Is this from a song or something? I don't know. Fred and Carol. Yeah, and I'm a kid, of course. But fortunately, you don't have to answer these questions anyway. There's a keyboard shortcut to get around this. But actually, these days I find it more funny to try to answer these questions than playing the actual game. I mean, I I don't think that this is a good game. It's awful. Okay, I think this should be it now. I mean, it's a normal DOS machine and it plays all these DOS games that you would expect to play it on such a machine. I mean, it's a 268 processor. A fairly modern thing, by the way, because normally when you get those old machines, you only find these XTs here. It's I don't think why this is the case, but I don't know why it's the case, but I think this is related to the fact that after the 268, the 368 very soon entered the market here, and I think most people skipped the 268 period. Maybe that's the reason why these things are so rare. Normally you don't have to halt a machine like this, you just turn it off. So there's no, I mean, there are no hidden cache like buffers that of the file systems that need to be written back to the block device or so. There's no sync or something, you just switch it off. But with these Winchester hard drives, when they are turned off, the write reading heads stay where they actually are. And if you are going to transport the machine, then it might hurt the hard drives. There are so-called transport cylinders, so the heads are moving to the very end of the platter, and this wasn't carried out automatically on those machines. Basically, any vendor had some proprietary tools to do this. I don't know if these commands these tools execute on the hardware are standard. But with my computer, it's ship. It's a tool called ship. And this is actually from Zenith data systems. And it says that it's helping me to position the write reading heads on the transport cylinder. And after I've done this, the system will lock down, and you have to power cycle to get it working again. That's what it says. And now it says that the write reading heads, there was a short activity on the hard drive, and now it says the write reading heads are on the transport cylinder, and I'm supposed to switch the computer off and get it ready for transportation. That's it, that's what it says. And I usually execute this when I turn it off, because I don't know what's next. I mean, I might move it around, I might open the case, so I just do it all the time. And now let's go to the internals of the machine. So I've put the monitor aside. You open these by unscrewing 2 screws on the side, on each side, and on the back you have 3 more screws, and then you slide these back, and that's it. And of course this is not really good to have it on the carpet, but when I opened it the first time, my childhood, my heart was beating very fast because I was so afraid to damage something. Now I'm not so much afraid anymore, damaging stuff. All this static stuff, I took this very serious back then, but I mean, this time I don't wear handcuffs now. I usually do it like this. I leave the power socket in there, and this is all grounded now, and so there's basically no risk to damage anything. And besides that, I'm not intending to disassemble it entirely now. This is what it is back then, and I think this is fascinating. This is all a little bit bigger than it would be today. And this is the 5.25 inch floppy drive here. This is a teak, by the way. I don't know if my original machine had a teak, but I don't know if that was in there. This is actually a good drive. This is a really, really good stuff. HD drive, also necessary for doing the PDP-11 stuff with Putra. So this is really, really good stuff. If you find one of these, keep it. Then I have a small drive for basically compatibility issues. My machine back then also had this smaller drive retrofitted by me because I wanted to be able to exchange data with the PC of my parents. I will come later to that. I know this is already lengthy. Probably you will leave me after this technical tour. But for those who are interested, can stay a little bit longer. Yeah, so if a power supply, not the plug is not really that what we would have today. I don't know if this is proprietary. On these main boards of these days, you find numerous different connectors. There's these white flat ones too. I don't know if there are any rules on how these connectors should be or shouldn't be. At least, I mean, this looks proprietary to me. Yeah, here we have the RAM. I actually do not know how much it really is. Maybe you can see it in the BIOS. Maybe we should take a look at the BIOS too. That's not uninteresting. Yeah, here we have the Microsoft Import mouse controller. Microsoft Import, it reads, it's one big chip and that's it. So it's basically what you would call a bus mouse. I think bus mouse because it sits on the bus directly, so it basically sits on your ISA bus. As you can see, this is a 16-bit ISA bus, which is really a good thing because it allows me to put a lot more cards. I have a whole box of cards in my basement, which I might try someday. Yeah, then we have some serial parallel port card. I mean, in my original machine back then it was a little different. I mean, remember that there were more of those big cards in there. But this is as close as I could get. I managed to get the original drive controller, which is connected to the lock. Oh no, wait. The lock is, it's different. The lock is connected to the main board, of course. It has to lock the keyboard, but the LEDs, the LED for the drive, that's connected here to the drive controller. So that would be the original card you would find in the original system. Here there's a graphics card I pulled from another Zenith model. I don't know if this is original or not. I also remember that the card I had with my system back then was longer. I remember these cards were going all the way back here. So here you have some EEPROM. This was very common these days, so I don't know. This was a good thing basically. So nothing could erase this ROM other than by UV light. If you wanted to erase it and to write a new firmware on it, otherwise the software couldn't change it no matter what. What do we have today? You have this UEFI, you have writable flashes, viruses can go into it. I mean, why not doing it like this? I mean, and if you want to have it upgradable, just put a jumper on the right protection line. Is it that difficult? But no, yeah, I mean, you get the point. Today's PC architectures are fucked up. Yeah, I don't know. What else do we have here? CMOS, Poach 1, Poach 8. I don't know what these are. It's probably custom stuff. Let's see if we... yeah, if you get to CPU somehow. 80, what do we have here? The camera won't focus. Ein 82, 87. It's probably coprocessor. And this one, I don't see it. This is the 8286, so this is the actual processor, and I guess this is the coprocessor then. Okay, yeah. I think then you've seen it all. That's all it is. Battery there. That, I don't know, maybe I should pull it before it leaks all over the main board. Yeah, I mean, otherwise nothing too exciting about it. I mean, it's a personal computer of its time. It's probably not much different from any other personal computer. You get your ISA bus, you get your CPU and RAM, and I mean, yeah, let's see if we can go into the BIOS. And now it really looks like a terminal. So let's see. So here we have these error detection LEDs. They should go all off except for one. This gets, now it's ready. I think the lifetime of the hard drive is coming to an end. It does weird clicking. Which also could be normal. I mean, it's more, the sound is more like a relay going on. So there we are again. So getting into the BIOS is somewhat difficult. I think I will need both hands for that. And I have to do some reboot. So I don't know it exactly. It's escape F1 something. Always the same mess. Okay, here we are. This worked on the first try. Get this little console here, and this is the only BIOS I've ever seen that has something like console. And if you enter some wrong command, you get these nice invalid command things. So this is really cool. Actually, also shows us the memory size, 640K and 2048K in addition. And I think, setup is the command that gets us into the BIOS menu. This is the common thing you would have on other machines too. This looks really modern. And so here we have the hard drive setting and floppy drive setting, and also the correct ones, of course. So the 1.2 teak drive, S drive 1, and S drive 0, the 1.4 meg, the small drive. And here serial ports and stuff. So this is actually really nifty, and it's a fairly modern BIOS. On the X-Test you commonly don't have any BIOS at all. It's either configured by jumpers, or it's really odd. I don't know how to get around there, but yeah, so this is a nice thing. And yeah, since we do not want to change anything here, we exit this. Do this now by pressing Ctrl Delete and rebooting the machine. So then we do a ship again. Okay, that's it. Okay, well, yeah. So now to the backstory of this thing here. Yeah, I mean it's one of these typical childhood stories. I mean, back in the days, what did we have? I will grow up on the countryside. I mean, it was Königswinter in North Rhine-Westphalia. That's near Bonn. Bonn was the capital city back then. My parents worked both for the government, and of course, my parents weren't computer experts. So, I mean, back then, computers weren't ubiquitous at all. I mean, the home computer revolution with the C64 and the Commodore PET and TRS-80 and so on, this hadn't started back then in Germany. It just wasn't there. It I mean, the development in Germany in that sense, there was really a huge lack. So basically, on my side, in my town, it was the case. I mean, that might depend if you have parents that work in the tech business or are computer experts or are in the university, things might be different. But for the normal people, in quotes, that computers just didn't exist. When computers came into the to the view field of those people, it was already it was already in the 90s. So my parents were actually reluctant to buy a computer, and the reason was basically the fear of buying one that's outdated tomorrow, basically outdated the day after. And it was actually the case. I mean, it was exactly like today. You buy a smartphone and half a year later it's outdated. And it was the case with computers back then, and I'm not sure if it was even more extreme back then like it is today, because if you buy a computer today, you buy a Core i7 or something and it's good for years. Depending on what you do. I mean, I have computers, my laptop, I think this is a machine that's 10 years old now. I tried what it used and it's still good enough. It's not even an i5 or so, it's Centrino or something and it's still okay. But back then you were basically every megahertz your CPU was faster was counting. So every little bit more speed and more performance was a great leap forward. If you bought a computer that was twice the power, if you got a new one, it had more than twice the power. So it was a huge leap forward. You could play more games and stuff. So so that basically meant that these things were outdated pretty soon and producing also a lot of electronic trash. We got a Windows 95 computer back then. It was a 5,000 Deutsche Mark machine. It was a lot of money back then. Not everybody could afford that back then. I have very wealthy parents, so it was no problem for them since they were working for the government. It was no problem to afford such a machine. It was more the fear of buying something that's outdated or maybe a wrong choice, and you must see my parents weren't experts. They they just literally didn't know what they were buying. And I remember when they bought their first computer with Windows 95, they got the boy from the neighbors came over, and we sat together and checked everything. We checked on everything. We checked if the RAM is what was accounted for, if the disk size was what accounted for. And yeah, I mean, it was all okay. I mean, the only thing that wasn't okay was the monitor. It had some shadow mask damage, but it got exchanged later, so it was fine. I mean, nobody tried to play tricks on us. But then we had it, a Windows 95 machine with inkjet. I still remember HP DeskJet 660C, a pretty modern printer back then. I mean, it was capable to do color prints, very, very close to what you get from an inkjet printer today. I mean, not super high quality, but it was great back then. It was really great. I remember sitting in front of the machine, drawing with corridor stuff and printing it out and use it for tinkering with paper and stuff. So it was really cool. My parents even took the effort to get some private computer teachers. So in our ich sag mal Bekanntenkreis, in our neighborhood, there was some guy that was a little more experienced with computers than the others, and he offered a service to teach people with computer stuff. And that's how I learned to use CorelDRAW. It's how I learned to use Windows. It even was a little bit how I learned to use MS-DOS through the. I mean, you remember Windows 95 had these little DOS prompts. So, and I remember I was excited when my teacher announced, so yeah, next time we are going to the DOS prompt. Yeah, okay, well, but this computer, I mean, since it was an expensive machine, it was for the whole family, and of course it was located in the working room of my parents. I could use it when I wanted to, but I wanted our own computer in my room. I wanted actual personal computing, personal computing. That was the thing back then. Your computer in your room, just for you. So that's what I wanted. And yeah, I mean, I was about 14 years old or so. It was completely out of reach to buy a recent machine. I mean, 5,000 Deutsche Mark, I don't know how many pocket money I had. 20 Mark, 20 Deutsche Mark compared to 5,000. I didn't have much money back then. I mean, the pocket money was somewhat restricted. So yeah, I needed a solution, and I mentioned earlier that these things turned into electronic trash very soon, because you buy a computer that year, and the year after or 2 years after, it's literally so outdated that you thing you want to do is throw it away. And yeah, I mean, it was not that extreme. I mean, these units were used somewhat longer, but I thought to myself, if I cannot afford a recent machine, maybe I can afford one that's a little bit older. I was thinking about something like maybe a C64, or maybe something else, what else I could find. So in Bonn, in the Rheinaue, that was is a huge park. It's basically the central park of Bonn, if you will. So there's in the summer months, there's every third Saturday in the month, there's a huge flea market. And I mean, you must see that it was before online auctions, before eBay and stuff. And the flea markets were back then actually more interesting than they are today, because of course the good stuff now goes all to eBay. And what you find on flea markets these days, usually, I visited one last year, the famous big one in Leipzig, and I was actually disappointed. It was all trash. And don't ask for electronic stuff, but back then they really had stuff. They had computers, lots and lots, of electronic stuff. It was really like a paradise for me. So, and it didn't took me long to find a computer. It was these models, these Zenith machine, and it was sold by a woman, and I paid 10. I did an Anzahlung, an advance payment of 10 Deutsche Mark. So she would put it in the back, so it was reserved for me, and so I was with my friend, with my school friends there on the flea market. We want to go around a bit before we would pick it up, and it was at the beginning. It was 10 minutes or half an hour on the flea market, and I already found what I was looking for. The overall price was, as far as I remember, 70 Deutsche Mark, which is ridiculously cheap for a computer. It was like, I mean, of course, it was somewhat money for me, but it was nothing that's where I had to think for long. I mean, that was basically the amount of money I was having with me for the flea market, which I was willing to spend on something. So basically, the choice was basically made. We looked around, we looked for other computers, but we didn't find one that was that cool. I mean, it was complete with monitor, like the machine I showed you. The monitor from Zenith, the keyboard was from Zenith, the main unit, of course, was from Zenith. It looked complete. It looked like it could work. I was taking that into account that it might not work. So basically what we did is put the keyboard in my backpack, and my friend took the monitor in a bag, and I was carrying the main unit with bare hands. Unfortunately, my friend back then had an injury on his hand, and it didn't work very long, so he couldn't carry the monitor all the way, which was kind of a problem, because then he had to go home, and I had to do the job alone of carrying this thing. And what I basically did was I was carrying the main unit a few meters and going back, picking up the monitor, carrying that a few meters, and so on until I reached the train, and into the train, and from the train into the bus, and from the bus to the town where I was living, and was desperately trying to get this thing to my home, which was about 800 meters to a kilometer or so, I don't know, maybe more. And then basically was carrying the main unit, putting it on the floor, picking up the monitor, carrying that and putting it on the floor, and so on and so on. And I was really afraid that somebody might take it from me. But there was help. Another boy came along, and this was younger than me. I didn't know him. He came with his. He had a small, I don't know how to call it in English, these cars to transport something. He had this with him, and basically asked if he could help me to get my computer home, and he did that, and I gave him some 10 Deutsche Mark or so, and basically that was the happy ending of this transportation story. Then I put it on I took the machine and put it under the balcony. We had a big house back then on the countryside, and it was a place that was already crowded with all sorts of trash, and also not visible from the outside of the garden, so it was a safe place for the computer. And then I mean, it was really exhausting for me. I mean, I was 14 years old, and not really. How to say, I was not really exercised in doing stuff like this, and on top of that I have a heart problem, and yeah, I still remember that when I went for showering, I was feeling heat all over my body because it was so exhausting to carry this machine. But I wanted it. I wanted it so desperately. I wanted my own computer, and now I had one. When I was on the shower, I still didn't know if this thing would work. It was still under the balcony, and I was afraid that it wouldn't work because when I was transporting it, sun was very hot on these days, and it heated up the main unit really, really hot. And okay, then I had, of course, to tell my mother about what I've bought, and she basically responded with Philipp, alles was du kaufst ist scheiße. So which translates to basically, Philip, everything you buy is shit. I mean, look at my room, look at my basement today. I don't want to say she was right, but I mean, she couldn't understand that I wanted personal computing, that I wanted a computer for myself. I mean, the expensive machine in the working room, I had to share it with my parents, I had to share it with my sister. Windows didn't really have accounts these days. They have some tricky shit with password and desktop sharing, but it's not really, the file system is not really for having multi-users and stuff. And I wanted a computer that I can work with on my own, which is under my control, which I can, if I wanted to, which I can do modifications to without asking anybody in advance. I just wanted my own thing. And yeah, and actually I must say, even if my mother reacted that way, I'm actually receiving a lot of support from my parents with my tech neurosis. So this is, I don't know if everybody has parents which one can count on if it comes to holding some big piece of technology home. So this is so I really want to thank my parents at this point for the support, for all these things, and especially my father for holding the HP home and holding the core and Innova laser home. So all this stuff, I mean, space here is limited, it's not infinite, but my parents would do it anyway, so this is really, really great. And yeah, back to the story. I mean, on the evening, I was sitting on the floor in my room, and yeah, I was turning this thing on together with a colleague which came over to see it. And I was afraid doing this alone because I don't know, I mean, it could have been broken, it might not work, but I turned it on, the hard drive was spinning up, and bam, it was there, DOS prompt. It was just booting like a charm, it was just ready to use. And this was awesome. Really, I did it. I had my own computer then, and yeah, I mean, later that day, my colleague was gone. Then I was cleaning the stuff all up, making it all clean, and then I was playing with it, trying to mount some floppy. I really had some limited experience with DOS back then. It was really a challenge. I was trying to read a floppy from the big expensive machine, I remember. By that time I already had changed the disk drive to a smaller one. It must have been like this. I only know I wanted to mount a floppy disk, and it didn't work for some reason. I was trying. I thought by myself, maybe it's not A and B, maybe it's some other letter in the alphabet, and so I tried all 26 possible letters, but it didn't work. Yeah, and while I was doing this, my father came down to me and asked me what I think, what I can do with this machine now, which was quite of a catchy question because I didn't know. I didn't know what this thing would be capable of, how well I could use it for what I intended to. I mean, I had not. I mean, you must see, the only computer experience I had back then was with Windows 95. I know I knew a bit about Windows 95 and very, very little about DOS. And but in the end, it turned out the machine was usable very well. It had this word processor Word. I loved it. I used it a lot. I copied some DOS programs from the big machine over to my machine, and they even worked. Some older DOS stuff like ScanDisk or so, it worked on my machine too. And yeah, some games, of course, and even QBasic. QBasic was installed and on the machine, and I knew a very tiny little bit of BASIC because I had some VTech kids computer before, which had a BASIC interpreter, so it was not completely new, but the QBasic interpreter that came with DOS was really the first programming language I used on the big machines, so to say. I mean, that was basically my introduction to programming, so to say. So that was basically the first step I made to really learn how to write programs. I mean, yeah, I don't know. My fellow colleagues say they were keen into playing games. I wanted to write on programs, and I remember the urge I felt to write programs was not so much driven by how to say that by for the programming sake. So many people I see these days, especially in most cases older people like university students or A level students. They say they are learning programming, let's say Python or so, and all what these people mostly do is getting a tutorial from the net and doing these exercise questions in there. So yeah, normally I mean, I got some years later I got this Richie Cunningham C manual, and what you find in there are some. I mean, you read a chapter, and then you have some basically homework you could do, and I don't know. I mean, I remember when this was some years later, but when I tried that, doing these homeworks, I felt bored. And okay, back to the story then. So I didn't want to learn programming for the programming's sake. So I wasn't there to say I learn BASIC because BASIC is a cool language. So no, I wanted actually to implement something I wanted to have, and that was chatbots. I was very much into chatterbots back then, and I still are, because I was seeing these film war games back then. I mean, I think it was 1998 or so, and I saw this war games movie, and I saw this Joshua computer chatting. So these guys, David Lightman, chatting with this computer like with another human on the other end, but it was really a computer, and I was thinking, that's something I want to have. I want a chatbot. And so I was learning BASIC to program a chatbot. I mean, it was only a very, very basic one, but I got better over the years. But yeah, that's I wanted to do. There was another story some years before when I had my kid's computer from VTech. I saw this infamous scene in Jurassic Park where this guy enters the magic word warning, and on the screen there's this Nedrick says, "Aha, you didn't know the magic word." That's something I wanted for myself too, and on my kid's computer I did a little basic program then, and which asked for a password, and if you got it wrong, it said you didn't know the magic word on this text display. And yeah, that were things like that. So I never was into programming for language sake. So if it's necessary to learn a language to do something specific, let's say if I want to program an FPGA, I see, okay, VHDL is the right tool, I just learn VHDL. But I don't learn it because I find the language interesting or because it's cool. So that's basically my way of approaching these things. I want to solve a problem. I search for tools that are capable to solve the problem, and then I just do it. And yeah, that's basically how it all started, with some basic computers. So that was basically QBasic was a real thing back then for me. And yeah, that's basically how it all started. The story of my personal computer ended when I was getting a bit older, and of course, if you get more mature, you want a more mature computer, so to say. There was one thing that I already desperately wanted to, and I wanted it basically forever, and that was a laptop. I mean, today laptops are ubiquitous. I mean, today it's cheap. You get one for 300 euros, and you get a great laptop computer. But back in the days, that wasn't the case. These things were really ridiculously expensive. I know when I was a child, there's these, I don't know how it's called in English, but I think it's, you get the thing, it's, I'm the Christian church, so to say, I'm Catholic, and then you have these communion, these when you first time go to the communion, you get some money from everyone in the family, basically. And then you end up with something like 1,000 Deutsche Mark or so, which is ridiculously a lot of money for a 13 or 12-year-old boy. And basically what I then did as my father, we went into a computer store and looking for laptop computers, and then we saw the price tag, and we began to realize that's impossible. No laptop for you, Philip. He cannot afford this. The alternative were, and today I'm a bit, it was an opportunity I didn't use because I misunderstood it. The alternative was an Amiga 500. My money was enough for an Amiga 500, and I didn't buy it because the salesman said, Amiga 500. For doing work, that's not the right thing, because I told them I wanted to actually work, like programming, editing text and stuff like this, the professional stuff. I was not too much into games. I was more into using the machine for professional purposes, diving into the world of professional computing, basically. That was what I was interested in, and so I didn't buy it, but I wish I had, because today I know that these computers were basically the entry point for many people into assembler and into really the higher arts of computing. But anyway, I did it my way. I got my DOS machine, and that's how I did it. yeah, so I wanted to tell you how I got rid of my beloved Zenith computer. So yeah, I needed a laptop. There was no question about it. These things dropped in price over the years, and you could buy used, very decent machines. Like today, you have these notebooks billiger and stuff. You get these laptop computers from big companies who had leasing contracts, and then they sell it for a few bucks. And that was back in the days. There were companies like this also. They are also there, and they had an offer for, I don't know, it was 1,200 or 1,400 for a Toshiba satellite laptop with DSTN display. There was this two-class society with laptops basically, and back in the days. Today is all TFT. It's all the same for everyone. There are no two models for poor people and models for rich people. But back in the days, there were almost every laptop you could buy was with you got a TFT model and you got a DSTN screen model. The DSTN screen was like crap. Basically, it was a screen like you would have on your Game Gear or so, which is not stable. When you like slightly tilted it, the image would go away, and it was really shit passive matrix display. And yeah, of course, it was a DSTN screen model. But I had to sell my Zenith. I sold all my toys. I still had toys back then, and I sold them all. The electric train, everything. I don't have almost no toys left over from my childhood. Might sound sad, but I don't really feel that I would miss anything. But yeah, in the end, I got the money for the laptop. But there is something I really badly missed, and that was my Zenith PC. The years later, I realized what I've given away. It was my first computer, and I really shouldn't have done that. So, if you see this and you have your first computer, I would suggest to keep it. I mean, just keep it. Maybe you are feeling bad about it, giving it away some years later. And I was tracing down the Zenith model for over 15 years in on online auctions and so on. And as one thing I didn't realize in the first place is these Zenith models, they are not really ubiquitous in Germany. So they are sold in the US, but in Germany they are not really, it's not really there. If you look on online auctions for them, you won't find one. And so I imported that from the parts, basically the main units, the monitor, the keyboard from the US. And yeah, that cost ridiculously much money, but I think it was worth it in the end. I have my computer back. I mean, it's not with this green screen. I mean, I don't have the lovely green screen, but it's okay. So yeah, this is the backstory behind this Zenith machine, and also the basically personal backstories, how I got into computing and how I got into all this. I mean, this is a rather lengthy video, but as I said, you could have skipped it after the technical tour. I hope you enjoyed it anyway, and okay, then it's time to say goodbye. See you soon, take care, bye bye, see you in the next video.